In Violent Night, we find Santa Claus really down in the dumps on one particularly gloomy Christmas Eve, feeling depressed, disillusioned, like the cause he devoted his life to has no real meaning anymore. But then, in the midst of delivering presents, what to his wondering eyes should appear but a gang of murderous, gun-toting criminals taking an innocent family hostage. And with no help on the way, and no hope in sight, it's up to good old Saint Nick to rediscover the spirit of the holiday season by getting jolly on those naughty sons of bitches.
Time for some season's beatings.
Guys, I have to watch a lot of really stupid, awful crap to do this gig. Batwoman, She-Hulk, Birds of Prey, Venom, the list goes on. And there is a lot of enjoyment derived from tearing those shows and movies apart, but in most cases, we're talking about stuff I would never even have watched in the first place if I wasn't reviewing it. If this channel wasn't how I keep the lights on around here, I'd be very happy to just not watch those things at all and save myself the aggravation. Very rarely, it seems like, do I get to watch and review something that I genuinely have a great time with. When there's no stupid shit, no politics, no cringy feminist agenda to pick apart, it's just pure fun from start to finish. That hardly ever happens. Like 2 or 3 times a year if I'm lucky, and I know better than to expect it at this point. But my Christmas present came early this year, because I'll be damned if I didn't have an absolute blast with Violent Night. I wasn't sure what to expect, but it is every bit as ridiculous as it looked in the trailer. It's bloody, it's ruthless, there's tons of holiday-themed mayhem. In other words, you've gotta f***ing see this movie. I am a little butthurt about one thing though. The bastard stole my idea. I had an idea for a Christmas movie, well, a couple different ones actually, where Santa Claus is a blood-soaked action hero, fighting terrorists with Christmas-themed weapons, strangling them with tree lights and impaling them with icicles and shit, and oh my god, they actually do stuff exactly like that in Violent Night. I couldn't believe it! This movie is like Die Hard if John McClane was Santa Claus crossed with an R-rated Home Alone. And it's beautiful. I mean, yeah, I'm pissed off that somebody else got there first, but it's like the movie was made for me in a lot of ways. And I'm not the only one. The audience in my theater, they were hooting and hollering and laughing their asses off right along with me. They had a ball with this stuff, because the filmmakers knew exactly what they were doing. They had an admittedly bonkers premise, and instead of trying to real-world it or ground it in reality or make it family friendly or some bullshit like that, they just embraced the craziness of it. And the result was the most fun I've had at the movies in months. It's amazing how simple that can be, isn't it? Just embracing the craziness. That's how you get such glorious stuff like Santa Claus pissing off the side of the sleigh, caving bad guys' skulls in and stabbing their eyes out with candy canes. How can you not love absurdity like that? Yeah, the whole thing is fucking ludicrous, but the filmmakers knew that, and that's why it works. And the weird thing is, outside of the Santa stuff, I wouldn't even say there are that many jokes in this movie. I mean, there are jokes, and they're fine. Most of them land pretty well, but they pale in comparison to everything else. Because the sheer novelty of watching Santa Claus getting shot at with machine guns, kicking dudes in the balls, or breaking them in half by is so enormous and so outrageous that it carries the entire movie on its own. Now, is it a little gimmicky? Sure, but that gimmick works, damn it. In fact, it works so well that it almost bums you out when they cut away to the other people or do quieter scenes for character development or whatever. Not that that stuff is poorly done, it isn't. There's a little bit of thought put into it. There's a guy who's making a last-ditch effort to save his marriage for the sake of his daughter, but he's stuck doing it at family Christmas, and his family are a bunch of miserable assholes. And then there's backstory with Santa where he was some kind of Viking or a warlord or something before he became what he is, and he's very disheartened by what the world has turned into. There's no joy in what he does anymore because no one really believes in Christmas now, and so he doesn't either. He's even contemplating giving the gig up after tonight, but then he's pitted against a bad guy who absolutely hates Christmas because of things in his own past, and so to save the holidays, Santa has to be inspired again by the little girl who is the one person who still believes. And don't get me wrong, none of this is bad. There's actually a lot more attention paid to the characters and the story than I was expecting in a movie like this. And in any other movie, I would commend them for that. In any other movie, taking the time to make your characters people we care about and relate to is a good thing. But here, even though it's perfectly fine stuff, you almost get kind of impatient with it because that's not what you're here for in a movie like this. You don't see violence Violent Night for the story or the characters. You don't see Violent Night to watch Santa Claus being depressed about his marriage being on the rocks or revealing his backstory from 1200 years ago. You see Violent Night to watch Santa Claus shit up. I'm serious. That stuff is such a good time that you almost don't care about everything else. There's nothing wrong with the other stuff, really. It just can't compare to the sheer awesomeness of jolly old Saint Nick smashing bad guys' kneecaps with a sledgehammer. Which is why it's unfortunate that that stuff, the really fun stuff, is not technically the focal point. Because the movie does try to tell a story and develop the characters to set the stage for the stuff we want to see, and the fight scenes are super entertaining when they get to them. The movie just takes its time building up to that stuff. And that's my one real complaint about this thing. They had a premise that was absolute comedic gold, and instead of cranking that dial up to 11, they settled on like a 6. So you get Santa being depressed, Santa being grumpy and surly, drowning his sorrows in booze, you get some stuff with the other characters, then you get a hilarious fight scene. And then they slow things down again, check in with the dude trying to put his family back together, talk to the little girl for a few minutes, and that stuff is all fine and good. It's not unentertaining, but it's like, I want to see Santa kicking ass! Go back to that stuff, damn it! I'll grant them the stuff with the little girl, though, because they gave her a Home Alone-style sequence that was f***ing priceless. I won't spoil it, but holy shit, it was good. So yeah, my one criticism is that as much as the filmmakers embrace the holiday-themed mayhem, they just don't embrace it enough. It's great when we get it, but I wanted more! More violence, more blood spatter, more mayhem! We get it in assorted sequences, and they're fantastic, but I wanted a whole movie like that. I wanted to see Santa twirling his bag of toys around like nunchucks, throwing Christmas cookies like shurikens, or taking a giant candy cane and shoving it up a bad guy's ass. But the movie just doesn't quite reach that level of insanity. And this is gonna sound nuts, but just go with me for a second. I think the movie needed a different director. There is one director out there who I believe could have totally embraced the sheer lunacy and truly unleashed the full batshit potential of Violent Night, and that's Michael Bay. And I'm no fan of his, believe me, but just think about it. An R-rated Michael Bay Christmas movie starring Santa Claus fighting off terrorists and shit, lobbing grenades that look like tree ornaments, and firing heat-seeking missiles from the sleigh, saying dope one-liners like, "Let's get jolly," and "I'm gonna make you naughty bastards my ho-ho-hos." Who wouldn't want to see that? I mean, it can't just be me, can it? Come on! Violent Night doesn't embrace its premise as much as I was hoping it would, but even though it only goes half crazy instead of full-on balls-to-the-wall crazy, this movie is a goddamn delight. Don't get me wrong, it's dumb as hell, but in the best way possible. They knew what kind of movie they were making, and instead of trying to deny it, they just had fun with it, and I sure as hell did too. I wanted to see them lean into the wackiness more, but I was still very entertained by what I got. Ho ho ho, motherfuckers! And God bless us, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. I might have been in a weird mood in this video, but I'll be back to normal after the holidays, I promise. In the meantime, while you're here, please do all the other YouTube things. Ding the bell icon and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. Links to that and to my live streaming channel are in the description box. And most importantly, don't forget to leave a comment and thumbs up the video, share, subscribe, and make sure you're still subscribed, because what really deserves to have a blood-soaked Santa Claus come to town on his sorry ass is the YouTube algorithm. That's all for now, but I'll be back with more soon. So take care, stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.